Tanager Place and the Meraki Institute of Learning proudly present the Rise, Wellness, and Resilience series, centered on resilient parenting, cultivating your child's resilience. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, hi, I'm Tanya, and this show is an 11-part series digging deep into the Rise framework, covering the 4 core pieces of Rise, Wellness, and Resilience. This includes, first, R, relationships, how relationships and experience influence a child's resilience. Secondly, I, indicators of well-being, how we integrate research-informed elements to enhance the well-being of children. Third, S, social-emotional development, how we can increase the emotional intelligence of children through everyday interactions. And lastly, E, enhancements, how we can interconnect the whole child to offer the greatest opportunity for wellness and resilience. When we cultivate a child's wellness and resilience, we offer a bright place for children to rise. Rise through difficulty, rise through struggle, rise with the means to manage, restore, and grow. So, as a wife, mother, aunt, sister, daughter, and friend to many parents, I am thankful you are joining on this learning journey with me. For today's topic, we are covering experiences, one of the elements within the relationships part of the Rise, Wellness, and Resilience framework. Today's session, you'll be hearing from Jenny Knoll, Clinical Manager at Tanager Place Outpatient Clinic. Welcome, Jenny.
Thanks for having me, Tanya.
Jenny, you're joining us today as a therapist, a mother, and you come with a lot of expertise as it relates to kids' overall wellness and mental health. So tell me a little bit about this experiences section of the Rise framework. What does this mean for parents who are looking to cultivate this in their child?
That's a great question, Tanya. You know, I think the best way to understand it is to think about the very first thing that happens for a parent when they find out they're going to have a child. We start to think and brainstorm about what types of experiences are they going to have in life. Are they going to be on the Little League team? Are they going to be a painter? Are they going to love drama classes? Are we going on vacations together? So we start dreaming about all these experiences, and then through those dreams of experiences, we think about who might they be. Well, it turns out that those experiences that a child has in life really does shape who they become.
Jenny, I absolutely love that. What I heard you say is that our children are made up of thousands of experiences that start to shape who they are and how they navigate the world around them. So help me understand how these experiences are important to raising resilient children.
Brain research has really told us that the experiences that a child has from the time that they're born really starts to create what we call neural pathways. But essentially what it's doing is those experiences are shaping the way that the brain works and the way that the brain perceives future information. So the experiences that we have really then inform what we think about ourselves, what we think about other people around us, and the way that we see the world in general.
So this starts happening 5 years old, 7-year-old, like what does this mean?
Yeah.
Holy cow!
Yeah, and this happens so naturally and we never really pay close attention to it because as new parents, most of us are exhausted, but it actually starts right away at birth and what we call the infant trust cycle. And so I'll explain what this looks like for you. You know, when we first have that brand new baby, that baby has no words to tell us anything. It can't tell us when it's hungry or cold or lonely. It just has one form of communication, and that's crying. And so whenever that baby cries, a grown-up kind of picks it up and says, baby, 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 what's going on? And then we make a million guesses, right? And we keep trying and we keep trying to figure out what it needs. Finally, we meet its need, we figure out it's cold, we wrap it up tight, and we say, oh, baby, now you're all better, mama loves you. And that baby really learns, I can trust my mama, I can trust grown-ups. And so the more we repeat that cycle and we keep working on meeting baby's needs and trying to guess and do our best, all in all, the baby learns how to trust. And then that message and that message kind of continues with them throughout life of grown-ups can be trusted.
So Jenny, I heard you say they start to learn that the world around them is maybe predictable, trustworthy. The adults can meet their needs, which means I, as a baby, can get my needs met by either crying or fussing about or wiggling about. Is that like logical? That's what they're thinking as infants? Or does this happen like on a body level?
Yeah, it's a both and. I mean, you know, infants don't necessarily have the same like narrative thought patterns that we have, but they learn that repetition and their body holds it. And they know next time, like, oh, I have this need again, my tummy's empty, last time I did this, and then mom fed me, you know, so they learn that, oh, here's the need in my tummy, if I cry, I'm gonna get some food in my tummy. So they learn that pattern just from the way that their body feels, how it responds, and then that satiation of the need.
I love that. So much of this is happening at just a sensation level, on an unconscious level, but it's certainly developing and influencing the brain and the way that the brain is integrating these experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. When you think about that, the need of being hungry is kind of stressful, right? And the baby doesn't know what to do, and it can't get up and feed itself yet, so it's frustrated and it's in that stress state. But then once the grown-up figures it out, the baby feels that calm state and feels relaxed again.
So I'm sure, you know, I think about just even a baby within the first year. There are thousands and thousands of experiences, right? And it's almost as if a thousand memories, and not even memories like that they necessarily will be able to retain or verbalize later in life. But what I hear you say is that starts to shape the way the child develops and forms, or what does that mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that I think about it, and oftentimes we'll explain it, is kind of using Disney's Inside Out and their idea of islands of personality. And so what that means is, you know, for a baby, every experience is a new experience, and then we start to develop more of those that are similar. And so the more of those similar experiences that we have, then they really form kind of pathways in the brain that get kind of worn in. And then they kind of create roots, right? And so I call those roots core beliefs. And it really kind of gives that growing child or baby ideas about themselves, like I am a kind person, or when I'm upset, grown-ups help me feel better or meet my needs, you know? So they really kind of begin to form their belief system through those experiences.
I'm guessing it starts to shape who they are, their hobbies, their preferences. I love that you made a reference to the Disney Pixar movie Inside Out, because Riley, if I remember right, to the movie has islands. Some of her islands are bigger than other islands. I remember her biggest island was family, and it kind of showed in the movie it was the biggest island because that was the most of her experiences. Yeah. But she had a hockey island too, and that became a passion of hers. So I'm guessing the more that we're exposed to, the more like experiences we have, it starts to shape who we are.
Absolutely. Just like anything else that we think about building in our lives, the more repetition, the stronger it becomes. So if I'm learning a new skill, I'm going to do it lots and lots and lots to make it really strong and automatic. When we have experiences and they're similar, the more and more of those similar like experiences, the stronger that belief or part of ourself becomes. So absolutely, when we're little babies, our family is our primary experience. And then as we grow, we start to have other experiences outside of our family that also help to inform and shape those parts of ourselves.
Yeah, I love that concept, parts of self, because there's so many varying things that make me me. And that's really, I think, what I'm taking away from what you're saying is that we have so many experiences, but the more like experiences we have shape who I start to become and how I start to navigate and have relationships in the world around me. What good information, Jenny. When we return from commercial, I want to dive in deeper into ways that we can cultivate adaptive experiences. And that word adaptive can be complex, but like healthy, positive, good experiences in order for children to have more wellness and resilience. Excited to hear more.
Tanager Place is here for children, teens, young adults, and families as they navigate the many stressors of the world today. Tanager inspires, empowers, and heals by providing tools and support needed to navigate the hardships of life and overcome obstacles. Our expertise and specialty trainings offer a wide range of approaches, and we'll join alongside you to create solutions to enhance your wellness. We are here for you and your family, virtually or in person. Tanager Place, your child, our focus.
Jenny, we just learned about experiences and how they shape the growing child. Now let's dive into this idea of cultivating positive experiences for overall wellness and resilience. So it sounds like we want our children to have as many positive experiences as they can. Do we need to prevent negative ones, or, do I carry guilt because I know my kids have some negative ones? What does this look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I always start this conversation by saying, let's get rid of positive and negative, because those words in general are just kind of judgments, right? Yeah. And the reality is life just is, and experiences happen. And so I really prefer the term of thinking about adaptive experiences. Adaptive experiences is really the thing that, that helps create solid core pieces of self that help children thrive and become more resilient.
So what does it mean when you say adaptive? Like, dig into that a little bit more.
Yeah, so adaptive experiences can be those that you would maybe classify as positive, like having some accomplishments or feeling successful, feeling supported by an adult, or being encouraged to do something, trying something new and learning a new skill. All of those can be adaptive experiences. But also when we maybe have conflict with somebody, but then we're able to have a restorative interaction or kind of heal that conflict and problem solve it together in a way that has a pleasurable outcome, or it's okay with us now, and it maintains that relationship at its core. Those can all be adaptive experiences as well. So I fall down and I get hurt, but then I'm able to kind of have my wound taken care of and feel safe and have a hug. That creates an adaptive experience as well, even when bad things happen.
So I can be scared to go to school, but feel like I can be courageous and show up and do it. And it doesn't take away the fact that it was adaptive just because I had a feeling of scared, or like you said, sadness or other things. It's about the whole picture of that experience, the working through the hard stuff, the struggle and coming through it. Like the whole concept's really centered around wellness and resilience. Yeah. So what are some potential outcomes if children don't have mostly adaptive experiences in life? Like, I want you to talk about for a second when a child is mostly under stress, which I know as parents, we all work really hard to not create this life for our children. But the reality is life is really hard and parenting is hard. And if I'm just stuck in a rut and I know that the home has been chaotic and stressful, what does that do to a kid, and how then can I kind of move through that and try something different?
What research shows is that toxic stress over time can impact overall brain development and functioning for kiddos. But the good news is that even if we experience that stress, but we have adults kind of there with us, helping to create some adaptive pieces to those relationships, that it actually mitigates that impact of stress on the child's brain and development and allows them to even increase that resilience more, right? Because like you said, this is really hard and stressful, but we're getting through it and I see the outcome, and then we get through it and we're in a better place. Like, that's an awesome story, and that creates a great experience.
I love that. So it's not about always avoiding all stress, because that feels impossible as a parent. I know I cannot do that. Yeah. But it's about, even in the midst of stress, how we work through that and how we navigate through that and how we heal through that. It's that I want to, as often as possible, do the best I can in those moments of stress to create some semblance of control, of problem solving, of perseverance. That what really is hard, what I heard you say, is stress combined with feeling hopeless, helpless, incapable.
Yeah. And alone. You know, I think about kids don't come with a package of experiences where they've seen this happen before and we know we'll get through it. But when a kid experiences something for the first time, even if it's a stress, they don't necessarily have that natural, like, oh, this will go away, you know, it'll be fine. So adults really bring in valuable experiences and help to kind of co-create a reality around that, right? So even if we have a really, really stressful week and bad things happen, but I can come in at the end of the week and say, wow, you know, this week was so hard and there were so many things going on. I wonder if there's times you felt really scared and unsure what was going to happen. You know, mommy's been through these things before, and sometimes there's scary parts, and at the end, everything is okay. You know, whatever that specific experience might be related to, we as adults get to bring that in.
So it's almost teaching that message and modeling things are hard in life, and we can always press the reset button. We can always start a new day, a new moment. We always have an opportunity to cultivate working through those struggles and finding an ability to restore our greatness.
Yeah. One of my favorite pieces of research that I always go back to for myself, for my kids, or, you know, anyone I'm working with, is the fact that happiness and life satisfaction is actually at its highest and at its peak right after we get through working through a stressful event in our life.
That's incredible, Jenny. Thank you so much. Such good information to think about. I know a sense of relief to me knowing that I don't have to save my kids from the hard experiences. It's about how we navigate through that. It's about how we work through that stress, have a sense of hope, have some sense of control. When we come back, I want to dive in deeper in how we support kids through their experience.
No matter the challenges you and your family face, Tanager Place is here for you. Our team of specialists in mental, emotional, behavioral, and social health want to join alongside you during these tough times. Tanager will offer the tools needed to inspire, empower, and heal while providing the support you need to build the strongest foundation for success and wellness. We'll meet you wherever you are in your journey and together define a path to reach your goals. Together we rise. Tanager Place, your child, our focus.
Jenny, we just learned about what adaptive experiences are and how we can cultivate that. Now let's dive into this idea about how parents can support kids through all of their experiences, even if they're not right there with them throughout them. So there's so much going on in the brains of children, and obviously children are constantly having new experiences. Parents or caregivers aren't always present for all those. So how can we support our children's development even when we aren't there to experience those things with them?
The way that I would start with explaining this is just kind of start by explaining the process of how does the brain interpret an experience, or how is the brain and the body experiencing things. And it really starts by our 5 senses. And so whatever we're doing, our brain first, and it's like our lower parts of our brain, really kind of recognize what's my body doing, what's it sound like, what's it smelling like, you know, and what it's really doing is looking for signs of danger or threat. And so then it goes up into the middle brain parts, and that threat is interpreted to really determine, like, is this a threat or is this okay? And then if it is a threat or things like that, lots of times that's your typical fight, flight, freeze, right? So the baby cries, tries to get out, you know, the little kid that runs away or starts fighting you, all sorts of fun things around toddler time. And then the idea is that it goes up to the top parts of your brain, which is where communication kind of comes in, language, but most importantly, meaning making. And for a child's brain, this is like the #1 part that's like developing as your child goes from infancy all the way up to 25, right? Because we know it doesn't stop at 18. Yes. And it really is that ability to understand experiences and to make a meaning from that. And when we talk about making meaning, it's really not necessarily asking why did these things happen or understanding it from that vantage point, but it's more so like, what does this experience mean to me? Or what can I take away from it?
Yeah, I love that. Not asking, why did this happen? Especially when we talk about hard things, right? Yeah. Why did I have to get into this car accident? Because it's this tone of helplessness and a lack of control, which we know is counter to resilience and wellness. So instead, what I hear you saying is that when we have experiences, it's taking those experiences and saying, what can I learn from this experience? What can I grow from with regard to this experience? Is that what you mean when you say meaning making?
Yeah, absolutely. And that point is so important because really there's not always an answer to why. And most of the time in life there isn't, right? And so it's more so getting through that, understanding what does it mean to me and what can I take with it? How can I incorporate this into future experiences, right? So it's kind of like creating a little file of like, oh, here was a car accident, here's what it felt like, here's what it meant, here's what the outcome was, right? So now I got that little file in my brain, and if something else happens similar to this, I have this file to pull back out and understand again, oh, okay, it happened, I checked myself out, I'm okay, and now I can still safely keep going.
And so it's almost this concept of not like bad things just happen to me. I have the worst luck, but I have experiences that are hard, and I have them because they teach me a lesson. They give me knowledge. They give me experiences that help me relate to others in the world. Like, we can take hard things and cultivate resilience from that by finding meaning almost.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that this is an area too for adults. A lot of times it's unnatural for us to think about it in this way. If I think about my own childhood, there were things that we just didn't talk about, but today's such a new world and we know so many new things about the world and about the way children's brains work and the way that we can really help them understand it differently. I love Fred Rogers and have always been such a huge fan. And one of my favorite quotes from him is that all things are mentionable. And when we make things mentionable, they become manageable. And so what this quote really means to me is, as adults, we have to kind of get through that fear or like awkwardness of talking about any experience that a child happens, but rather just making it mentionable, right? And just acknowledging that it's there and then working through that so they feel confident that they can manage those things when they come up.
So it's almost like, don't lock it up inside, don't push it and store it deep down, because when you make mention or you speak to it or you put it out in the universe with trusted adults or relationships, that it makes it less intense in the body. It makes it less feel less overwhelming almost, and it becomes more manageable.
The other thing that happens there, and this is kind of really important, is if we don't make it mentionable and we're not talking about it, children make up the story. Right? Yes. And if you've ever heard a story that a child made up, they're creative. They have imagination. So when you think about that in regards to something scary or stressful that happened, we always want them to understand that in a way that helps them move forward and feel good again, or feel kind of that restorative and loved and safe and all of those pieces, as opposed to taking on maybe blame or feelings of shame or judgment of themselves or fear of somebody else important in their lives. But we want to really help them finish that story.
So almost like if my kiddo got sent to the principal, knock on wood. But instead of coming back and yelling and consequencing and this is embarrassing, it's, what did you learn from that? What would you do different next time? Taking an experience, even if it's a hard experience, making meaning out of it so that they learn and develop from that experience in order, hopefully, to cultivate more adaptive ways of being in the world.
Yeah.
I love this. Tell me, real life example. I know you have kiddos, so tell me something in real life. What does this look like?
I do. And I have 2 girls, so there's all sorts of emotions in our house all of the time. And one thing that really sticks out to me is my daughter was maybe about 3 years old, and she was staying at her favorite place, her grandma and papa's, And all of a sudden I got a call, and I can hear her screaming in the background, and I can hear the panic in my parents' voice, and her finger had gotten closed in the door, and they're thinking like she needs to go to the emergency room, and I'm like, okay, how bad is it really? And they can't even tell me. So I hurry up and get there, and you know, again, parents are escalated and in panic because they're her baby girl, and so as we're driving along to urgent care, because it didn't need the emergency room, in the back seat, Josie says to me, "Papa's so mad at me. He never want me back," because Papa was standing there when the door got on her finger, and in his own panic and concern and worry for her, he's kind of shouting and trying to arrange things. And so she was making a meaning in her mind that Papa was mad at her and that she was a bad girl because this happened. And so that allowed me to say, when Papa was closing the door, your finger got caught in it, and Papa felt so sad and scary about what was going to happen to your finger because he didn't know how bad it was hurting. Yeah. When grown-ups get upset, sometimes their voice is really loud. And that also happens when grown-ups get angry. But in this situation, Papa felt worried. Yeah. And he loves you so much and always wants you to be safe, and that's why he felt worried.
I love that. My husband and I talk about this a lot because he gets in a protective mode when the kids get hurt, and it comes across as big emotions and scary, and I just say, Daddy's so worried right now. He cares so much about you that he is storming about saying, let's call 911, right? Because I think, you know, that's so true. Our own emotions come up, and we don't always realize how those appear to kids and how they're integrating that experience themselves.
Yeah, and you know, when we play that story out, and when we think about how did that create an island of personality, or how is that now a core belief, what that really is that when people we love get hurt, others worry for them and want them to be safe and do things to help them feel safe. So when she sees, you know, Papa be worried or storming about, or Dad's calling 911, she can then see that happening and say, wow, Papa's working really hard to keep me safe right now. Yeah, he really wants to take care of me.
What a different message to feel in the midst of those experiences. Wow, Jenny, such amazing information. These examples and all of the stuff that you have to share has really given me a lot to personally think about as a parent. If there were one or two key takeaways that you wanted the viewers to have, what would they be?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, that biggest message is that we don't have to helicopter over our parents. We are going to have really rough days and seasons of stress. And the best thing that we can do is always kind of just have open conversations, be narrating things. You know, I always think about when the kids were super little and they couldn't even talk yet, but we're walking around and I say, you know, now Mama's doing this and Mom slammed her finger in the door, and like, ow, that feels painful. You know, the more we talk about experiences and how they're happening and what they mean, the more children can learn that as well.
And the more they sure want to share their experiences as times go on. That's amazing. Jenny, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your expertise.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being with us and taking time out of your day to learn alongside us in order to offer a bright place for the children in your lives to rise. Today's series brought to you by Tanager Place and the Meraki Institute of Learning. For more information, please visit our website at www.tanagerplace.org.